Hello there, and welcome into episode 4 of Mystery in the Ozarks. This is the series where I'm writing a book and reading it to you as we go along. If you haven't listened to the first 3 episodes, you might need to just to know where we're at in the story. No changes this week in the story that I know of. Please remember that I am not editing this as we go along, so there might be some plot holes and some things we have to fix as we go forward. If you do have any thoughts and things where you think the story should go, put them in the comments. We'll see if we can get them in. Hope you enjoy. Chapter 6. How to get there. I can't believe we are going to get to go treasure hunting, Carol belted out loudly in excitement. Treasure hunting? Who's going treasure hunting? Jake's father's voice rang out from the doorway. They all 3 turned to see Papa Mike standing there with curiosity on his face. What do you mean, Dad? Jake said, hoping he would drop it. Carol just yelled out about going treasure hunting, Mike said, looking back at his son with more curiosity now. Oh, that, Carol interjected. That's, because, I convinced the boys to go geocaching with me, she said excitedly as the idea came to her head. She smiled at both the boys, who understood and went along. They both smiled and nodded like it was the truth, and she continued. Uncle Mike, do you know about geocaching? It's basically like a treasure hunt, but other people leave stuff somewhere and you have to go find it. It's so much fun. I can tell you all about it. Papa Mike's eyes had turned from curious to almost sorry he had even asked. Oh no, that's okay, sweetheart. I'm sure it's really cool, but I just need to get some extra sausage. And he made his way across the cabin. Your mother said it was in the door of the fridge? As he walked, Carol continued with her idea. Well, so the cache we want to go to is up near Phipps Waterfall. Oh, okay, yeah, that's neat, Carol, Mike said, a bit muffled by having his head in the fridge reaching for the sausage. Well, it's like 8 or so miles away, so I was wondering if it'd be cool if we asked Dutch if we could rent a side-by-side to go up there. That way all of the adults could fish, and we wouldn't be in the way bothering y'all, she said with a big smile. Dutch Shepard was the current owner and manager of the Mulberry Mountain Campground. He was an older man who had owned the campground since before the family had started coming. He lived at the main lodge about a half mile up the path through the woods. There he handled all the equipment rentals and pretty much anything that went on at the campgrounds. Mike closed the fridge and turned to his niece, whose smile had gotten even bigger. And just how do you expect to pay for this rental? He said, looking back at her with curiosity. Yeah, see, since you didn't get me anything for my last birthday, I was kind of hoping, she replied. Oh, I see, Mike chided. Well, come on, Uncle Mike, please, Carol added. All right, fine. But I'm not paying for the whole day. Tell Dutch to put a 4-hour ride on our tab, Mike replied as he patted the rainbow bucket hat, holding back the blonde curls on his niece's head. And then he headed to the cabin next door to finish cooking. Wow, that was a close one, Will said, as soon as his Uncle Mike was out of earshot. Yeah, what was that, Carol? Jake asked, a bit shocked but also impressed. Well, we needed to get to the falls, and I panicked a little when you heard me yell. But I think it worked out all right, wouldn't you say? Carol chuckled to herself as she stood up from the couch. Yeah, I guess so. So are we really doing this then? Jake replied with a bit of nervous excitement. Yeah, why wouldn't we? Will asked, a bit incredulous. Right? Carol added. The room went awkwardly silent for what felt like forever, but was only a few seconds. So, want to grab some burritos and head to Dutch's? Carol asked the boys. Oh, I'm in. I'm also excited for burrito, Will said as he darted across the cabin towards the door. Jake smiled as his best friend ran towards the food and shook his head and said, Okay, let's go get some food and see where this all goes. Oh, remember to grab a burrito for Dutch. He loves Dad's burritos and might give us a slight discount, he said as he and Carol made their way out and over next door to grab some grub for the road. Chapter 7. The Waterfall. Thank you, Dutch, Carol called out as they pulled away from the main lodge, headed up the trail towards Phipps Waterfall. They each had grabbed and eaten a burrito on the way to rent the side-by-side, and Dutch had very much appreciated the one they had brought him. He had given them an extra hour for free, which meant they had 5 hours to explore and get back. Okay, this is pretty awesome, Jake let out as he stomped on the gas to spin the tires a little and toss some gravel. Yes, sir, Will hollered from the back seat. They had rented a dark green 4-seater Kawasaki Mule. The camp's name was across the hood in shiny black vinyl lettering. Jake was driving as he was the oldest, and Dutch had a thing about only one person driving. Besides, Will had been banned from driving any of the camp's vehicles due to an incident involving a wrecked four-wheeler from last summer, and Carol didn't like the way the mule drove. The sound of the wind whipping through the roll bars of the vehicle, as well as the sound of the vehicle itself, deafened any chance of conversation as they drove down the dirt path that headed up into the woods from the main lodge. The road slowly changed from nice clean gravel that clearly lined the campground's roads and quickly became an overgrown, rough, narrow path covered in a canopy of trees and leaves. You could barely make out the tire marks in the road of the vehicle that had previously made the journey. Only a few more minutes, should be just up ahead, Carol announced after riding in silence for about 15 minutes. Awesome, Jake replied. What? Will called out from the back seat. We're almost there, Carol hollered back at her cousin over the noise. Oh, cool, Will replied through the wind. They continued on for a few more minutes as the evergreen and dirt highway they were on twisted and turned a few more times. They came to the bottom of a slight hill that looked a bit flat off to the right, like there was some sort of river or gorge there. I think I see a sign, Carol said excitedly. About 50 yards in the distance, Jake could see a pull-off area and a small sign on the side of the path pointing downhill that said Phipps Branch Waterfall in small white letters. He slowed the mule to a stop next to the sign and said, Okay, we hoof it from here, I guess? Both Will and Carol agreed, and the three quickly hopped out of the vehicle. First one there's a rotten egg, Will said as he began running in the direction that the sign was pointing. No fair, Jake said as he started to chase after him. Be careful, you two, Carol hollered out a little too late. Ah! Will's voice rang as he stumbled down the dirt path, tripping over a root. He crashed down the hill and smacked directly into a tall, thin oak tree. Dude, are you okay? Jake hollered down to his cousin. Yeah. Just a couple scrapes and maybe a goose egg on my leg, Will replied as he righted himself off the tree, dusted himself off, and stood up. Oh, cool, I think I found it, he let out as he could now see the small river running just below him. It fell off the rocks into a deeper stream below, creating a small but beautiful waterfall. The river was not that strong, but it cut a deep groove in the limestone and created a stair-step effect as the water trickled down the face of it. The largest piece of the waterfall fell about 6 foot off the limestone shelf it had created as a sort of natural covering behind the waterfall itself. I think there's more down further, he said, now fully standing up and seeing that there was a way to climb down the sides of the falls. So now what? I think we need to hold the compass to the north, right? Isn't that what the note said? Jake piped up. Okay, but where are we supposed to hold it to the north? Will retorted with a little sarcasm in his voice. I don't know, dude, but I don't see you coming up with any ideas, Jake snapped back. Well then, why don't we try to find the same spot that was in the photo? Carol asked, a bit frustrated that neither of them had thought of the obvious answer yet. Oh yeah, Will said with a slight chuckle. That's a good point, Jake added with a slight laugh as well. But we don't have the computer, and there's no service out here, he added with more question in his voice. Yeah, I know, that's why I took a screenshot of the picture and saved it to my phone, Carol said matter-of-factly as she pulled out her iPhone, unlocked it, and pulled up the referenced photo. She turned the phone so that they could all see the location. Looks like it's down underneath the edge of the limestone. It's almost under the waterfall itself, Carol said after a few seconds. Yeah, it looks like he is looking behind the waterfall, Jake added. Let's go look then, Will said, and he began to climb down the side of the waterfall. Jake looked at Carol and said, After you, and motioned for her to go down next. The limestone was cold and somewhat sharp as they slowly edged their way down until they were finally standing right in front of the main waterfall. The clear sheets of water almost looked like glass sculptures as it poured over the rock's edges. It looks like this rock here is in the background by his left leg. Will, can you stand here and hold up the compass like this? Carol asked as she showed him the photo. I can try, Will responded as he made his way over to where she was standing. She instructed and acted out for him how to hold the compass up to his eye with his right hand while standing facing the waterfall. I think I got it, he said with some sarcasm and a wink. Then go do it, smarty, Carol said with some frustration as she moved out of his way. Okay, fine, Will replied as he took her spot and pulled the compass from his pocket. He made sure he was standing the correct way and held the compass up to his eye level, almost like he was looking through it, like a spyglass. The sun glinted off the silver metal, and sure enough, the beam of light they had seen in the cabin came shooting out of the compass. They all excitedly followed the light from the edge of the compass to wherever it was pointed with huge anticipation, only to see it was casting directly into the ceiling of the limestone overhang that the water fell from. What do we do now? Will asked, a bit perplexed, as the beam shot directly into the limestone roof of the overhang. I don't know, Jake said. I guess I was expecting something else. Carol stood there staring at the light, where the light went into the rock and back to the compass, and Will holding it. She tilted her head like she noticed something and then looked back and forth between Will and the photo on her phone. That's right, he was short, Carol exclaimed suddenly. What? Will replied. Oh, sorry, here, give me the compass, please, Carol said as she walked over to him. No, it's mine. I want to be the one to use it, Will said, a little snippy. Oh, hush, Will, here, let me show you what I mean. And she turned the phone towards him. Look, this guy is much shorter than you, and that means he would be holding the compass at a different angle than you. It's said that Jesse James was short for a man, around 5'6". Aren't you like 6'3", Will? She asked. So I'm 5'5", she continued, looking at him, waiting for him to catch up. Oh, Will said, finally understanding, and stepped out of the way while handing her the compass. Okay, it was like this, right? Carol asked as she took his spot and held up the compass. Look, Jake said as the beam of light now shot directly into the limestone on the back wall of the overhang. Is that writing? Carol asked, seeing some black marks on the wall where the light hit. She was shaking with excitement, which made the beam of light move all over the wall. Jake ran over to it to see what was there. I think it might be, he said as he tried to follow the small circle of light as it bounced all over. Can you hold it a little more still, Carol? Jake said excitedly. I think there's something there, but I can't make out what it is, he continued. Carol calmed herself and could see what Jake was saying. There did seem to be some markings on the wall that only showed in the light from the compass. She tried to focus in on one particular marking, holding the compass as still as possible. It's not a letter, it's some sort of symbol, but I don't know. Wait, Carol, do you have the cipher? Jake asked, overwhelmed with excitement. Yes, Carol said excitedly, as she instantly knew what he was thinking. She reached into her pocket with her free hand and fished out the cipher. Here, Will, give this to Jake, she said as she handed it to her cousin. Will quickly ran it over to him as he picked up on the thought as well. Yes, I think, Carol, hold it really still again, please, Jake said as he looked back and forth between the piece of paper with the cipher on it and the wall with the markings. Yeah, sorry, Carol said as she calmed her breathing and held it as still as she could. Yes, it matches the symbol right here, Jake spouted out. He looked back down at the cipher. And on that symbol is and on here, that symbol is above the letter T. We found it, he let out excitedly. That's awesome, Will added. Well, what does it say? Carol asked impatiently. I can't tell, there's too many letters and the light is only big enough to uncover one symbol at a time. Can you try to move it more slowly to the right? I can try to do them one at a time. We know the first letter's T, Jake replied. Carol tried to move the compass just enough to uncover the next letter, but it was impossible. Whenever she shifted it, it would move the beam to the other side of the message so quickly, or too quickly to see what the symbols were, and it seemed impossible to get it focused on one at a time. I can't, it's impossible, Carol said in frustration as she broke her pose to take a break and refocus. What are we missing? She asked out loud. She took a deep breath and thought to herself, okay, what are we missing? The compass will guide you. The words from the note rolled through her head again. She held up the compass and looked it over. Y'all, look! Click. She pressed the tiny button she had discovered on the side of the device. Wow, don't blind me, Will shrieked as the tiny beam of light turned into a spotlight shining off the compass. Sorry, Carol called out as she quickly picked up the compass and pointed it back towards the limestone wall. Y'all, look! Jake yelled out. Their eyes followed to where his hand pointed. The entire wall where the symbols was now completely illuminated.